How you guys introduce yourselves?
My name's Jenkins, and I'm the director here at Mississippi Farm to School Network.
My name's MaryJo Wilson. I'm the marketing and outreach lead with the Mississippi Farm to School Network.
Sydney Turnipseed here, and I serve as the associate director with the Farm to School Network.
Could you expand on the origin story of Mississippi Farm to School and what sparked it and what gap were you trying to fill?
It was founded by Sunny Baker and Dorothy Grady Scarborough, two women working in food systems in Mississippi. Sunny started a program at one school in Oxford, Mississippi, and it was so well received by the community that she was approached by some folks to take it statewide. Throughout her work, she met Dorothy Grady Scarborough, who was just doing some community garden projects with her community and the youth in the Delta. And Sunny quickly realized that Dorothy was doing this to help get community members and children access to fresh foods and learn more about growing their own food. And so they teamed up and started the statewide network. A lot of farm to school programs are housed within state agencies. And in Mississippi, our state agencies don't put a lot of resource, time, capacity into farm to school. So that's why we'll start a nonprofit to build a network of people who are doing farm to school and farm to school adjacent activities and help programs either procure locally or start garden programs.
We primarily focus on youth engagement, health and nutrition in our communities, specifically with school-age children, K through 12, as well as early child care. So yeah, we have a big focus and emphasis on building relationships with our farmers, with educators, as well as state municipalities that can help forward the work we're doing in farm to school and ECE. We love connecting with partners and folks that can inform the work, provide feedback on how others are benefiting from resource sharing and knowledge sharing.
What is one recent moment that really reminded you why the kind of work that you're doing matters?
So recently, we reached out to a raised garden bed organization to see if they had discounts for nonprofits. And they ended up donating their whole entire stock to us, 350 raised garden beds that now we are able to distribute throughout the state and bring garden programs into schools that have either never had garden programs before or be able to expand that. And just to be able to bring those hands-on learning opportunities for students to know where their food comes from. Maybe they're not growing enough food to feed their whole school, but they have this way to learn about food and have taste tests and hopefully be able to meet their farmers as well.
I feel like I'm forming relationships with the youth, which was a goal, is not to just be focused on the whole grown-up world of planning and programming, but to engage with children and get their feedback.
Yeah, similarly, just dropping off garden boxes in the last month and the reaction from the students when they see me coming in with these cardboard boxes, like, what's in there? And we start talking to them like, oh, it's going to be a garden setup, and just their reactions of being really excited. And then the childcare providers also, who just are so grateful for any resources that they can get and something that helps students connect to where their food comes from and fresh food.
In terms of the core communities that you work with, how do they shape your priorities?
Much of our work is addressing the disparities, the inequities, the food insecurity. So when it comes to our regional work, that's often related to the community itself. Overall, it's a whole process of not just introducing gardens, but the food literacy as well. We also are very realistic that we're a small team. It's only 4 of us. So to build those in-person relationships can be tough. Oftentimes the disparities in these things are affecting overwhelmingly Black and brown folks in our community. So we want to build that trust with folks. We have to look at trust and moving at the speed of trust when it comes to working with farmers and bringing on new partnerships and new communities.
We established a farm to ECE coalition a year ago, and that has been a very telling experience. Having providers, folks at the Head Start Administration Office, representatives from our state extension, Their role is managing Head Start programs, and we really wanted to hear from them what their needs were and what gaps that they were experiencing and priorities. And it's made such a difference in hearing directly from these folks who are the ones that are being impacted by our programming. They have a huge input on our strategic plan and our priorities and the ways that we're interacting with childcare centers and families.
What are some of the present day challenges that you've heard, whether it's via this coalition or just in your partnership work with different communities?
It's certainly almost always capacity, having the policy and legislative support from state municipalities and backing our programs. So that leaves it up to educators to figure out to implement. And of course, the resources such as funding, things that would help our programs, like being able to purchase those garden supplies and to have additional personnel to assist them with not just the gardens, but procurement.
Have you noticed that anything has shifted since 2021?
Here in Mississippi, it's like sometimes when it comes to barriers and challenges, it's nothing new for our state. We're constantly dealing with a lack of something. And those statistics that come out of our state are disheartening, but the work has continued nonstop. I can't say I've noticed a drastic shift. Food systems work has gone on since before civil rights era of folks advocating for their communities. I can say on a community level, what I've observed since I've started in 2022 was an increase in people in the community wanting to grow food. And I think this was a result from COVID and the long lines at the grocery store, inability to get to the grocery store, and supply chain disruption. So that I will say, at least here on the coast, I saw more people coming out to the community garden wanting to learn or feeling a sense of urgency around learning how to grow it. And since then, I think overall people still see the need with egg prices being what they are.
It's built resiliency in a way, and through community relationships and finding resources within the community, working with what we have instead of dwelling on what we don't have, I think has been really powerful in our community in Mississippi throughout.
In terms of collaboration and solidarity, these times are very difficult. What is something that you feel collective action could achieve?
I think what we have noticed is the folks collaborating and working together to basically be a form of resistance to some of these policies. Also, we've just had to collect feedback to find out how others have been impacted. So it's one thing for our organization, but what has it meant for the larger community and after school programs and other folks who are trying to figure out ways to even build a farm to school program or garden program?
If you could wave a wand and as an organization manifest 3 resources that could land in your lap tomorrow, what would be your top 3 that you would prioritize?
As a community, I would say land. I feel we can't do anything without land. We organize on land. We grow our food on land. We practice our stewardship and build our churches on land. That's something we need to sustain our community. As an organization, I would definitely love for equal distribution of resources to all schools and early child care centers in the state. So they all have access to the same food purchasing, the same tools and resources for building out their programs and health nutrition programs.
For farmers and growers to be able to process and distribute food. I think the same is true for an organization, but maybe that looks more like policy that's incentivizing those things, funding to be able to grow and distribute food.
Yeah, I agree with you, Sydney. Some sort of food hubs in each community where local food is available for everyone. And then I think as an organization, just more communication with our Department of Education and Department of Agriculture, and just more willingness to collaborate, which I know is also a lack of resource on their end. So I would also say increase in resources as well.
Let's say it's maybe 10 years from now and some of your boldest goals have come to life. What does the landscape look like for food sovereignty in your region?
If we were to see food sovereignty succeeding in our communities, there would be that intergenerational healing and a redistribution of wealth and power I think a very active public in terms of policy and advocacy, like it would be really accessible for folks. Regional food policy councils, we would see very plainly a higher number of Mississippians having access to food that's grown either in the state or in their community.
Also, land access, uplifting other agricultural STEM jobs that are not just farming, but getting young people interested in growing their own food, or everybody just connected within the community, making relationships.
Yeah, I would say in association with the community land trust would be great, having a community land trust and replacing all the corner stores with fresh markets. And we've talked about when there's a lot of city development and they plant all of those beautiful ornamental trees, we would love for that to be fruit bearing trees. So your fig trees and your plum trees and your persimmons would be more of a citywide initiative in development versus regular smuggler trees. So that type of sovereignty for the community to access food was definitely a 10-year goal or beyond, but I see it as tangible. I think it's possible.
What keeps you hopeful on really tough days?
I depend on these two amazing women on tough days. My team is a huge support. They're never like a part of the stress or burden or challenge. I find connecting with them and just sharing updates with them is really helpful. And then one more piece of that is spending time in the garden. We practice what we preach. I'm in the garden almost every morning, and I find that really healing. That's how I've connected with elders and other folks who are, mind you, doing this work with no grant money, nothing. This is just organically what they know to do. So I go out there and I get fed from their energy and spirit of growing.
Having such a supportive team, as well as just seeing that there are people all over the country that are interested in farm to school and know the benefits and share all their amazing stories. And I know in Mississippi, a lot of the times we hear that and we get a little jealous sometimes, but it is so encouraging to hear that other states are doing the thing and then just going out into the garden, like Umi said, and growing things and seeing that although you hear that everything's so bad, life is still here, life is still flourishing and growing.
Yeah. Third to an amazing team. And I think thinking about the people that came before us, this isn't anything new. When navigating through these challenges, think about the people pre-civil rights era that were doing food sovereignty work. Fannie Lou Hamer, like it was much harder then, and the strength and the courage and the resiliency that it took for them to make the incredible progress that they did is really hopeful for me.